We'll do a review on the Sichos in volume 15, Chelek Tezvov, the fifth Sicha for the Parsha of Vayeishev. So Rashi Sicha, and Rashi basically translates two words in the Parsha in where Yehuda leaves for Tamar. She asks him, what would he give her, what he would give her in return for her being with him, and she says that she wants his chesomcha upsilecha, and Rashi translates that as meaning the ring that is used as a stamping ring, and also a garment that Yehuda would leave with her. And the Rashi brings down the translation from the Targum, and the Rebbe asks, how come Rashi has to translate it in such a way when it seems that it should be translated in a more simpler, literal way? And brings down from the Mefarshim, the Rebbe rejects that, and the Rebbe explains how these were items that Yehuda was carrying with him, and they had importance to Yehuda, and Yehuda would definitely want to come and retrieve them, so that what he's giving Tamar as a collateral, he will definitely want back. And that's how Rashi knows it, as we'll see specifically in details in Rashi. But let's look inside and go step by step. Aleph. From Pasuk by Yomer, Yehuda. So the Pasuk says that Yehuda said, what is the collateral? What is the guarantee that I should give you until I can give you? You'll hold on to it. I'll come to retrieve it, and then I'll pay you what I promised. So, but Tamar said to Yehuda, she wants choisomcha upsilecha umatcha asher b'yadecha. She asked for three things. She asked for his choisim, and she asked for his pisil, and she asked for his stick. What does that mean? Is Rashi mighty? Rashi quotes from the Verta the words choisomcha upsilecha, break the loshon from Targum, and he brings the language used by the Targum. Is kosoch v'shushifach. What is kosoch v'shushifach? And is there noch masbir? And then he explained, what does that mean? Tabas sha'ato choisembo, the ring that you use as a seal. And the garment that you use to cover with it. So we need to understand. Farvos muss Rashi arois nehmen dem Wort choisomcha von sein poshet und teich dein Stempel. Why is it necessary for Rashi to take the word choisomcha out of its simple meaning? Choisomcha means a seal, your stamp. Und anstatt dem es oistaichen betargum unkel, and in place of this simple meaning of stamp, to translate it as the Onkelos translated is koscha tabas. He says it means a ring. Yes, a ring that you stamp with, but why not a regular stamp? Why not just say chesomcha, your stamp? And azoy oicha, number two, the same thing is problematic with the word upsilecha. Azoy oich is shver b'negeya Rashi's pirush upsilecha. Rashi's interpretation on the word psilecha was teich vider Targum. Rashi translates as the Targum, shushifcha chulu simloscha sha'ato miskaseba, the garment that you cover with it. So Rashi translates as the Targum that it means a garment. But the normal translation of pesilcha means a string, a thread, a pesil. You find pesil techeles by the tzitzis, by the choshen pesil. In Tanakh, you find man nicht as pesil. In Tanakh, we don't find the meaning of pesil. So haben them badai should have the meaning von simla, from a garment. Beis men gefind, yeah, we do find as pesil hat dem teich von afodim, that pesil has the translation of a thread or a strick or a string, but not a garment. So what kind of a string, or the Rebbe will say in a minute what it's possible to mean over here. But the idea that psilcha means a garment is not found in the Tanakh, such a translation. Number 3, Gimel. Loit Rashi al HaTorah Muzman Zogun, according to Rashi, commentary on the Torah, we must say, as psil, the word psil does not need any translation at all, because in all the places that the word psil is brought down, there is no translation from Rashi to translate the meaning of psil. So we have to say, as psil neitzik sich nit bechlal in apirush. It does not require any interpretation at all. With the Reuv HaMachriya von the Werten in Tanakh, was Rashi verteidigt sind as the large majority, decisive majority of regular words used in the Tanakh. Rashi doesn't have to translate them. It means because those words are self-understood. One of those words is also pesil. Rashi never translates to tell you what pesil is. But those verentwer doch was Rashi verteidigt nicht pesil and chomesh. That is the answer why Rashi, when we find the word pesil, like we said, the pesil techeles and the pesil by the choshen, the word pesil is not translated. So why does Rashi need to bechlal translate the word psil? Psil seems to be from one of those words that are self-understood. Number 4, Dalet. Even if you find some sort of proof which will force us to say, as beparsha seinu, ken psil nit meinen chut oder chevel, that in our parsha the word psil cannot mean a strand, a thread, or a rope, string. As in all places, it has to be different. And Rashi therefore needs to translate it. But Rashi should have translated psilcha in unser pasuk. You should have that psilcha in our verse with the pirush from the Rashbam. As the Rashbam interprets psilcha, ezer, that it means a belt, the bald as an ezer, a gartel. That since the ezer, which is a gartel, is enlach, that is similar to a chevel, to a string, unchut on a strand and a thread, and that's close to it. So psilcha over here would mean your belt, your gartel. Hey, so livos darf Rashi zugeben noch ein Loschen, dem Loschen HaTargum Hezber. Why does Rashi not satisfied just to say the Targum Taich is Koscha or Shushifoch? And Rashi explains later on, what about this? The Hezber. Tabaz, the tabaz that you seal. And sim los choshatum miskaseba, and the garment that you cover with. He can have just said, meaning your ring and your garment is koscha b'shushibach, without interpreting that you sign with it and you cover it. Base. The Mefarshim the Rebbe brings down are explaining this last issue that the Rebbe raises. Why does Rashi have to bring down. What you do with them is that is how to understand how does the word, the pasuk says chosomcha, and here we're saying that it means a ring. So Rashi explains how chosomcha, a ring, is a seal. The pasuk says v'shushifach, which means your garment. So how is it translated as your garment? That because you cover with it, and this hints to the idea of tzitzis, gedilcha, simloscha shatum iskas. But let's look inside. Base. As ein and dome forshim, there are commentators, was sein and masbir, that explain as mit sein moisiv sein tabas shato choisumba, by Rashi adding that this is the ring that you sign with it. So Rashi explains that you sign with it. And also after Visim Loscha, Rashi had Sha'ato Miskaseba, that you covered for Rashi, the Shaila. That's how Rashi answers the question. Wo liegt in the Werter Chosomcha Psilecha, der Opteich? How do we see in the word that the Pasuk says, Chosomcha Psilecha, this translation of the Targum that Rashi brings down, is Koscha means a ring. What does a ring have to do with what the Pasuk calls it Chosomcha? And the Sheshimcha is called Simloscha. What is the connection with the word Psilecha with Simloscha, with your garment? Is Rashi Mavai. So Rashi explains, Taba Shato Chosomcha. The ring, what you use is to seal. So now that makes sense. That's why Chosomcha is called is Kosch, is a tabas, because you use it as a seal. Und der Fahr wird die Tabas angerufen Chosomcha. And that is why the tabas is referred to as your seal. And then Rashi further says, that is a hint, was mit dem is Rashi meramez from Posik. Rashi is hinting the verse, Gedilim tasel cha, make for you Gedilim, tzitzis, those are the psilcha, the psilim, kesuscha asher techaseba. The Pasuk says over there, the garment that you cover with, you put on tzitzis. So Rashi is hinting to the mitzvah of tzitzis, and which has to do with psilim, and that's why that is the garment Rashi says that you cover. That's why it's the psilecha. Wo gedilim tzitzis und psilim stehen in Zusammenhang mit ksuscha simla asher techaseba. Over there, the word gedilim and the tzitzis and psilim and strands are written together with the ksus chashat chaseba. Rashi is hinting with his words simlos chashat chaseba. Und der Fahr wird euch die Simla angerufen Psilecha, and that's why this garment is also called Psilecha, to leave the tzitzis psilim v'soifir, because of the tzitzis and the psilim that are on the garment. This also answers, now that we're talking about a garment that you're putting on tzitzis, that it's not the garment that Yehuda was actually wearing, because the Ramban asks, what is he asking to give him? His garment, so he's going to be without clothes. So now we know he's giving him not his regular garment, he's giving him his tzitzis in their mid. For entering the kasha from Ramban, they answered the question of Ramban. And it's not proper. He should give his simla v'yelech orim and he'll be naked of it. Not going to have a garment. Here we're discussing a separate garment that he wore in Zugab to der gewöhnlicher Simla, in addition to the regular garment. It's in order to fulfill the mitzvah of tzitzis. So the Rebbe says we're going to ask several questions on this interpretation. Still, we're discussing why Rashi has to. Originally, we asked why is Rashi B'chlal translating it different than the simple meaning, but specifically, where Rashi has to add and explain how the words of ring and garment are called in the pasuk, called in the pasuk. But so the Rebbe says the above explanation that we just said is blois masbir as chesomcho psilecha kenen meinen that they are able to mean, we can interpret this that chesomcho psilecha can mean is koscho v'shushipach because the ring you use as a seal and the garment is the tzitzis. Aber need aleph, but not number one. We have Asiz doa hechrech in shel mikra that we are forced in the simple meaning of the verse azoy zu taichen that we have to translate. We don't know that we should translate it. There's no proof. There's no evidence that we have to touch it like translated that it means a ring and a garment. It's possible to translate it, and why should we not do nit kipshuti b'chol mokem? Why not translate it as the simple meaning everywhere? Chosemun ezer would mean a seal, a stamp, and a belt. Because Freire said before. Base. And number two, al pizever noch starker de kasher. Belav hochi. Besides this, there becomes the question that we had besides this. Besides the fact, even general, we don't understand it, but especially that we have this question is besides the fact now, but now this question is much stronger. Why does the Torah have to say your seal and your belt, sort of meaning the the literal Umein and Tabasun Simlo, and what it means is the ring and a garment. Mitzad that has butter. And why? How does it mean it? Because Tabash as Rashi has to explain how a ring is called a chaysim. So why does the Torah write it in such a roundabout way? The Torah could have said very clearly, Tabatcha v'simloscha. And so Dr. Kenstein einfach could have been written simple and very clearly, Tabatcha v'simloscha. Those are words that are commonly used. Your ring and your garment, vertetus werden, come upon their mountain Torah. Those are words that are many times mentioned in the Torah. Number three, al pizeh, according to that explanation, so hat die Simla gedacht angedeutet werden in Posing mit dem Wort Gedilacha. The Torah, if the Torah is hinting to the Gedilim of the mitzvah tzitzis, so this garment should have been pointed out with the word Gedilacha. Was azoy werden tzitzis angerufen in dem Posing. Those are the way that tzitzis are referred to in that verse. The Tchasabo that Rashi is hinting to, according to the Meforshim, there it says Gedilim Tchasabo. So instead of saying Psilecha, Shlek Dilecha, Dalad Ve'ika. The fourth question, this is the main objection to this interpretation. That Ben Chomesh Lemikrot noch bis it's nit gelernt wegen mitzvah tzitzis b'chlal. The 5-year-old who's learning Chumash had not yet studied about the mitzvah tzitzis at all. Afil menzol zog. So he doesn't know about this. The Tchasabo is hinting for tzitzis. He hasn't learned about it. Afil menzol zog azal chonim. Even if we should say that, okay, he knows Vayeishev wegen tzitzis from Pirush Rashi. He does know. Rashi does mention about the mitzvah tzitzis. V'chashreibt as Eden haben talis shel tzitzis. That Yidden have a talis of tzitzis. The Mondoch dort Rashi need them Inyan from Psil. So over there, Rashi doesn't mention the idea of Psil. It says in the Parshas Noach earlier, Rashi doesn't mention the idea of Psil. So Psilecha he wouldn't know. Und der Mont nicht Rashi, the meaning von Tzitzis. Here Rashi doesn't say clearly, it says Mischasemo. He's hinting for Tzitzis. And by Tzitzis doesn't say the Psil. So how would the Psilecha, how would the Ben Chomesh associated it from that Rashi? And wie wird der Ben Chomesh lemikra verbinden beide Pirushim zusammen? So how is he going to connect? The Rashi told before about Talis, and over here it says Psilecha, those are not connected, and he wouldn't figure this out. Even if we're going to say that Rashi doesn't have to tell you this, the Tzelman doesn't need to tell it to the Ben Chomesh because he himself is wearing tzitzis. And he says in Krishma. So there is a familiarity to the Ben Chomesh about tzitzis and about psil. But Rashi did not bring in the posik. So Rashi should have brought the verse. Not just to bring down the posik. If that is what Rashi means. If Rashi means to say that what she asked for the garment was the garment of tzitzis, and that's hinted in the Psilecha, Rashi should have brought down the pasuk and not left it in a way of a hint. So the Rebbe disagrees with the interpretation that this is how it fits with the meaning of a ring and an psil, because it is the stamp and it is the tzitzis. It says in the pashtus that's not in the understanding of Rashi Pshuta Shomir. Okay, so the Rebbe now explains first of all why. In Ois Gimel, the Rebbe will explain why we can't really translate in the simple meaning that Chosomcha means a stamp, because why would Yehuda be carrying a stamp with him? He wasn't in his office. He wasn't. He's on the road going. Why would he be carrying a stamp? If we're going to say it's a ring that you stamp, that's something that makes understood why he would be carrying, because he carries his ring and the ring is used as a stamp. She wanted a ring of a stamp. She wanted something precious that is important to Yehuda. So he'd make sure to come back for it, to give her that was just a collateral till he'll pay her. Let's look inside. Gimel. The beard in that explanation of this. Der hechrech as chesomcha meint nit kipshute. The proof, the force that we have, forced to interpret, not literally dein Stempel, your stamp, but Rashi from Teuchen Parsha. Rashi knows that from the content of the Parsha. Yehuda's game came Timna is given b'l'shein hakosov. Yehuda went to Timna as, let's use the lashon of the pasuk. The pasuk said he went there lo goyis soinoi. He went there to shear his sheep. An arbet, that is a kind of a work by welcher sie is bechlal nicht nötig zu benutzen sich mit achosem. It's at all not important to use a stamp over there when you're shearing your sheep. The soin, you don't need a stamp over there. The ribbon is schwer zu teichen, and therefore it's difficult to interpret as chesomcha meint dein stempel. That chesomcha means your stamp, while al pi pshat, because according to the pshat. Aleph, zu dem was soll Yehuda mitnehmen sein Stempel nötigerheit? Why should Yehuda take along his stamp? And it's not important. He's not going to use it. Why would he be carrying a stamp with him? And Beis, first of all, would he be carrying it? Via Zoya Tomer gekent wissen. How would Tomer able to know as hat sein Stempel, that he has his stamp? By sich. by him. Unsorgen bepashtus, and she says him, simply, she just knows about it. It's like obvious. When as erste Sachen, the first thing she wants him, soll geben should give his stamp. How does she even know he has the stamp? Rashi, that's why Rashi translates Kipirush Targum as the Targum says, is koscha. Is koscha is a tabas. It is a ring. It's a kind of a ring in welches is do a choisem, in which there is a stamp in the tabas. That is something which is common to tragen a tabas of a finger, to be wearing a ring on your finger. Is ken chiddush, so then it's not surprising. But Yehuda has gehat mit sich, that Yehuda had it with him, based at his gegangen logis when he was going to shear the sheep. He had the ring with him. Thereby fordert sich aber vornisch. But now we still need to caution, and we need to answer. And Rashi has to therefore explaining that chesomcha asher that he seals with it, to explain that he will definitely come to get it later on, because this is something which is important to him. The Bavai Fozich Abavonis is verstandig in Pashtus, as when Tomer had gewollt nemen an Eirovim by Yehuda, when Tomer wanted to take some sort of a collateral by Yehuda, hat sie ausgeklitten Sachen, she chose such matters. Aleph, number one, welche seinen by entire, that is precious to him. But sein verstandig by Yehuda, farvos sie hat sie ausgeklitten. So then it would be understood by Yehuda how come she chose them. She's asking him for things, so she wanted to take something which is precious, and then Yehuda will appreciate why she's asking for them, because she knows that they're dear to Yehuda and he'll come back for them. And Beis, verbunden mit dem persönlich, and those that are connected to him personally, and that's something that he needs. Because she wanted to use them, recognize later on when he, if he will deny, or if she's trying to, when she left it, she was trying to say, let you recognize it belongs to you. There must be something personal, that when she will send it to him, he will know that it's his, that it's actually his, that he gave her something personal, and that's, he will recognize it by that. The Riber darf man sagen. Therefore, we need to say, as beim Betten dem Chesomcha by Yehuden, that when she requested the seal by Yehuda, but she did gemein dem Tabas als Tabas. She did not mean the ring because it's a ring, for the ring of it. Well, die Chashivus von a Tabas, because the importance from a ring is nicht genug Versicherung. That's not enough of a guarantee, of an assurance, as Yehuda zol muzna signa, that he must come take it back. Und nicht genug persönlich, and it's not personal enough that he's going to come back. Nor sie hat gebeten, but she asked, und das ist Rashi Mazgish. Rashi emphasizes, mit seinem Meisiv sein Tabas, sha'ato chesem. She added, it's a ring that you sign with it. The Tabas was Yehuda, the ring that Yehuda sha'ato chasmitz of the mid, that you seal with it, you sign with that. Und wird sicher nicht überlassen in ihre Hand. For sure, he's not going to leave it in her hands. Und damit ist euch moving their time. And now we also understand the reason. Why do we refer to the ring here as your seal? And not your ring. Why do we write the Torah in such a roundabout way of calling the ring the seal? Because that explains to us, because specifically by using the word your the ring, calling it chesomcha, it's something that he would have with him because it's a ring, but because it's Chaysom Cha, is verstandig was Tomer had gemeint mit ihr Betten, then we understand what Tomer meant when she asked by Yehudin Zayn Tabas asking for his ring. If it would have said Tabasco, why is she asking for the ring? A, it's not personal enough and it's not valued enough. And how would she use it later on for him to force him to come back and tell him that it's his? And therefore the pasuk uses the language of Chesam. Now we're going to use the similar logic to explain why psilcha cannot mean a belt, because a belt would not be important enough. Rashi has to say something which is important to Yehuda. It's a garment of importance that Yehuda covers himself. The similar that you cover Dalit, like them is a verstandig. According to this, it's also understood. Rashi can it zogen. Why Rashi cannot say as psilcha do meant ezer, that psilcha here means a belt. Warum an ezer? Because a belt hat nicht kein chashivas oder persönliche shaykhus mit Yehuda. A belt does not have importance or any personal connection with Yehuda. The Riber learned Rashi. That's why Rashi interprets Shushivka Dain Simla. Rashi learns that it means here your garment, not a belt, but a garment. When it's gleich moisif, and Rashi adds and explains, Ados make nit stam asimla. We're not talking about a regular, ordinary garment, because ordinary garment would not serve the purpose for you, Tomar, to ask it from Yehuda. Not stam asimla, nor simloscha sha'atom iskasebo. It's a garment that you cover yourself, which means the simla was do Yehuda. That garment that you, Yehuda, miskasim, that you cover with it. Mentioned important people, they wear special garments. Balderech, similar to we learned, big day Esav no Hagod Lachamudis. Pasuk talked about before that the Ben Chamesh learned that the garments of her older son that she gave, Rivka gave to Yaakov from the garments of her older son, Hachamudos, those dear, special, lost in the one, the bed, the beautiful garments. Or we say, Vayetza Evet Gomer Ubegod Vayitin Rivka, we find in the pasuk that the Eliezer, the Eved Abraham, gave also garments he took out and he gave to Rivka. Those are important garments. Yehuda, so therefore also Yehuda to live Zayin Cheshivas because of his importance. Zayin Dig der Godel Shabishvot, being the great one amongst the tribes, as we know, and he wore a special garment. Und der Far is Tomer given Zicher, and that's why Tomer was certain, as Odis Simla, that this particular garment, Sha'atim is Kasaba, that you cover with it, but Yehuda Zicher Kuman Opnem, and for sure he'll come to retrieve it. Al Derech, and this is similar, which the Pasuk says, be perish with regards to Matcha, not just a stick, but your stick, that Shebiyot Chal Derech, by word Matcha is the Pasuk, Alein Moisik the Verter. Similar to the word stick, the pasuk itself adds the words "asher beyodecha," that's in your hand. Mider kavona. What does it mean? That what is that? Your hands, stick in your hand. Mider kavona to madgish zayin. The pasuk intent is to emphasize, as Tomer had gebeten, that Tomer requested, nit stam ashteken. She didn't just ask for a stick, but dafke Yehuda's ashteken. She asked Yehuda's stick. In welches hat sich ausgedrückt Yehuda's Gemura, in which it expressed that the strength of Yehuda through his stick. And the same thing is the garment was a special garment which expressed the importance and the royalty of Yehuda, his greatness. Them is b'meila oich farent with the kasha for the Ramban. This automatically answers also the question of the Ramban. V'hot Yehuda begilos and begged by Tomer, and how could Yehuda leave his garment by Tomer? But das is nicht gewend the einzige symbol was Yehuda had getrogen. That wasn't the only garment that Yehuda carried. Nor a spezielles symbol was had getrogen als Siman von seiner Cheshiva, but rather a special garment that he carried as a sign of his importance. But we still have, okay, so that explains what it means, but how does the word psilcha explain garment? We understand that we want to say garment, the belt doesn't really fit to, that wouldn't be something she would ask, it doesn't have importance, we need the garment. But where is the association of the word psilcha with the language of garment? And the Rebbe brings down from the pasuk Naftule Likim, lashon of psil over there, which means a connection. It's a garment that connects and goes on to the body. Hey, the Hez, whatever their Shaila Kinal Sif Aleph, the explanation on the question earlier in Sif Aleph, Vu liegt im Wort psilecha der Abteich von Simla. Where in the word psilecha is the translation of Simla, is verstandig from Pirush Rashi in a Friedrich Sedra. We understand it from Rashi's commentary in a previous Sedra. From Posik Naftule Lekim Niftalti. When she calls his name Naftali, so she says Naftule Lekim Niftalti. I connected with Hashem. So Rashi as Pisil hat in sich dem Badait von Chibur. That Pisil has the meaning of connection. Therefore, therefore also a garment that a person covers angeru from Psil. It's also called Psil, weil sie is non to mechuber mit him, because it's close and connected to the person. Punkt, wie Chesomcha steht da bediu genau. And just as Chesomcha is exactly saying here because it's his seal of importance. So the Lashon here, the Pasuk uses not the Lashon of garment, but rather the Lashon of Psilcha. Mitzad demselben Tam, for the same reason that the Torah uses Chesomcha, your seal, something unique and special and important to Yehuda. Same thing is with garment. Also use Lashon of seal. Bitten Wort Psil, Lashon Chibur, is Musbar was Tomer had gemeint by Bet Yehuda Simla. That we understand what she was asking when she asked him for his garment. She asked him, "Dem begedus und gehat a Chibur," that garment that has a connection, some importance to Piskasaba, that he covers with it. And it also had a special connection with Yehuda. Sein Cheshivas als Yehuda, his importance as Yehuda, and that's expressed by using the word psilecha, chibur, importance, connection, especially to Yehuda. And now the Rebbe will explain according to the Yenishal Torah from this Rashi. From the Yenishal Torah in the Pirush Rashi, from the wine of Torah, the inner message from this Rashi commentary. Die zwei Euben der Monter Ketzoves in Tabas Sha'ata Choseba. The above two extremes in the ring that you sign in it. So, on one hand, Aleph, von ein Seite Tomer gewollt Odem Eiroven. On one hand, she wanted this guarantee not to leave their tabas, not because of the ring part of it. Because that did not have any importance or any specific connection to Yehuda. So she wanted not to leave them chosim. She wanted it because of the stamp. Weil in ihm hat sich angesehen die Balasbatischkeit und Chashivas von Yehudon, because in the stamp you were able to see the ownership and importance for Yehuda. Und based on the Idoch is the Chesed gewähnt nicht a Sach für sich, but then the stamp wasn't its own thing. It wasn't just a stamp, not a chelik from the tabas, but it was apart from the ring. Seinen Masim zu meaning from tabas sheyesh b'chesem. This fits to the idea of a ring that has a stamp, as it's explained in the inner part of Torah. Und das ist verbunden mit dem klolischen Hesber in Pnimis HaTorah, which is also connected to the general explanation in Pnimis HaTorah from Tam, for the reason was Tamar had gebeten by Yehuda and Davke, that Tamar requested, asked by Yehuda specifically, die drei Sachen, these three items, Chesomcho, Upsilecho, Umatecho. Your seal, the garment, and your stick. It'll come on, as we'll say later on. Zaya. Auf dem Postuk Vayichal Elikim Vayom Hashvi Melachti Asher Oso. That Elikim finished on the seventh day the work that he has done. We're going to compare Shabbos to the seal, and the rest of the week is like the ring without the seal, and Shabbos brings the seal. Steht the Medrash says in this pasuk, Rabbanon Amri, the Rabbanon say, Moshe lemelech she'osru lo tabas. It's, for example, a king who they made for him a ring. Ma hoyso chasedo, what was the ring missing? Choisem, a seal. Kach hoya ilum choser Shabbos, the world was lacking Shabbos. This haste, that means the belt on Shabbos, the world without Shabbos is via tabas on Achoisem, is like a ring that does not have the seal. Und Shabbos is v'achoisem to the tabas, and Shabbos becomes the seal to the ring. Is there in them? Explanation. That tabas is fuloshon tava. Tabas comes from the language of nature. The anhogas hateva was in well. That's the conduct of nature which is in this world. Was the anhoga tivis gitan ort. That conduct, the natural conduct, gives room as mizol nidzen with the welt hot abalabais, that you shall not see that the world has a master, has an owner, as he gehert zum Eibishter, that it belongs to Hashem. Shabbos is a choisem. Shabbos is a seal. It's an edus. It's a testimony, and a remembrance from the act of the beginning. And using the language of the Sefer HaChinuch, Hados is koiveya bilvavenu, that sets in our hearts emunas chidush ha'olam, the belief in the renewal of the world's novelty coming into creation, the newness, that the world is something new. B'meila Basement doch euch as der Elam bet nischatish b'chol yom tomid. So therefore, we also know that the world is constantly being every day renewed. With Alter Rebbe is das mevayer Barucha, as Alter Rebbe explains Barucha. So Shabbos sets up the creation of the world, the novelty of the world, and that it is constantly created, as the Alter Rebbe says. In Shemesh, so when we use the names of Hashem, is Elikim, is Bigmatria Hateva. The numerical value of Elikim equals Hateva. Un Havaye, so in contrast, Havaye is Hoya Hoya V'Yikechot, that was, is, and will be together, higher than nature. Choisem is the Gilui from Shem Havaya. Choisem is the revelation from the name of Hashem. Virazal Zogun, as our sages tell us, Chosom Mishal HaKodesh Baruch Hu Emes. The seal of Hashem is Emes. State the Emes Havaya Lo'ilom, that Havaya is Emes to the world. So that means that this is a revelation of the Shem Havaya. That's the emes. The seal is emes, which is Havaya. When Havaya is the Shodesh von Hogenisis, and Havaya is the root of the miraculous conduct versus the natural conduct in Shem Elikim. Was in Hanhogenisis, because when we have a miraculous conduct, drückt sich aus der emes Havaya. Over there you see the truth of Havaya. Setzt sich on Begilu, you can see openly that the Eibishter is legabri hecher from Welt, how Hashem is entirely higher than the world. The dogma, the opening is Okta Mailin Chosem, similar to the above mentioned advantage in the seal. By Yehuda and Tomer, by the Yehuda and Tomer, what was the advantage of the seal? Over there, Davke in the seal was Yehuda's expression of ownership. Davke der Chosem, like the Shem Havaya is the ownership of Hashem and the world, as we discussed earlier, that Yehuda's ownership is not from the ring, it's from the seal, because the seal expresses his personal. But Davke der Chosem at Giken Zayin, it was specifically the seal that could be an Eirov for Tomer, that could be a guarantee for Tomer. While in the Tarbas, mitzad atzmei in the ring, and its own is nit niker begolu yeshayches zum balabayis Yehuda. Over there, it's not openly recognizable, its connection to the master, to Yehuda. Der Choisem aber, on the other hand, the seal, however, does point to, weist on, ados is Yehuda's azach, that shows that this is something that belongs to Yehuda. Und genau, and I said before, das ist der Hefresh zwischen Sheishis and Bereshis and Shabbos. This is also the difference between the 6th day of creation, which is Teva, which it can't see necessarily Anhoge from Hashem, and Shabbos, which is the sets up that thing, the idea that Hashem is in charge of the world. Sheishis and Bereshis, in the 6 days of creation, is given the Savus Ha'olam Durchum Shem Elikim. Over there, the creation of the world came through the name Elikim, which is Anhogas HaTeva, which is the conduct of nature. Unhagam, as these Havus Nemtzich for Shem Havaya, even though we're saying it's Shem Elikim, but the creation comes from the name of Havaya. Havaya Loshem Mahave, that it creates, is this Oberinan Oifen, but the Shem Havaya's impact on the Shem Elikim, or on the nature, is an uneifun with the Shem Havaya. It's in a way of the Shem Havaya is meir poil durchum Shem Elikim, and impacts through the Shem Elikim. So it's Havaya. Aber b'Shabbos it's zugekommen der Chesomo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu emes. But on Shabbos we added that the seal of Hashem is emes. That is the new thing with Shabbos, that emes Havaya lo'ilom, that the truth of Hashem in the world, the Shem Havaya v'eres mitzad atzmi. The name Hashem as it's on its own, is nimshach geworden in Elam, has been drawn into the world. Das is euch masim mit dem Unterschied. This also fits with the difference between Choisem and Tabas in Sfiris, the way we have the Choisem and the seal and the Tabas as in Sfiris, as we associate them with the Sfiris, that Choisem is Sfiris HaYisoid, Choisem is the Sfir of Yisoid, and Tabas Malchus. And Malchus, Sfiris Malchus is of the Sherish and Hogativis. Sfiris Malchus is the root for the natural conduct. When Yisoid, which is Zoh, the end of Zoh, that is the Sherish and Hogativis, that's the root for the miraculous Hanhogen. These are the two things of the Tabas and the Choisem. Ches, wie gesagt früher, I said earlier, Kishem v'der Choisem is nit kein bazunder Metzias Latzme. Just as the seal is not a separate entity by itself, it's part of the ring. Nor Azachvos is in der Tabas. It's something which is part of the ring. Ubemela, is durchun choisem niker. So, and therefore, because it's part of the ring, so through the seal, you can tell as euch the tabas gehört to Yehuda, that also this ring belongs to Yehuda. So the seal tells us that who the ring belongs to. Azoy is euch Shabbos. Also Shabbos, the idea of Nes, Nitke Bazudar Inyan. This is not something, a separate matter from the Sheshis Mebreshis Bria, from the 6 days of creation, which is the Bria. It's not that this is Shabbos, and this is the weekdays, and they're not connected. But actually, the Shabbos is like the seal in the ring that reveals who this Sheshis Mebreshis belong to, that it belongs to the Eberstein. Or Yom HaShvi for the next day. It's the 7th day, it's part of the 6 days. The 6th, that's the 7th of the 6. It tut oiv the shleimus in the Bria. It accomplishes a wholesomeness in the creation. Ubelshen Chazal, using the language of our sages of blessed memory. Ma hoy hoy lo choser Shabbos. That what was the world lacking Shabbos, so the world was lacking Shabbos. It was a part. So that brings in the world. This haste, the shleimus von Teva Gufa, the wholesomeness from nature itself, by state in them, consists of the fact was mis inim amshich them lamaylam and ateva, that you bring down into it above nature. The shem havaya where is la'atzmai, that you bring down the shem havaya by itself, the gamri hecha from world, which is totally higher from the world, and you bring him down, and you bring down into it, into the world, and that's the mashlin, the choser Shabbos, choilom choser Shabbos, to fill in the teva lamaylam and ateva. So he is the Soich in Avodas Hashem. And so it's also in the services of Hashem. As I know, in Avodas Hashem, there are two services, two ways in serving Hashem. Aleph, an Avodah Vasapi Tavadas. You have an Avodah which is based on logic and reason. Through the service of logic and reason, you are drawing down a godly light which is relative to creation. It's a reasonable service to Hashem which brings down a godly light as associated with Bria. It's relative to the Bria. Because by the Avodah base, the number 2 is the Avodah of Mesiras Nefesh. You have the service of self-sacrifice, which is beyond reason and understanding. From that level, you get the godly light, which is higher in Bria. That expresses itself in this miraculous conduct. Und the Shleimus von der Avodah, the wholesomeness of the service, which is based on reason and rationale, is dafkeves, is durchgedrungen euch mit Avodah from Mesiras Nefesh or Mayl Matam Badas. When is there a wholesomeness in the reason service? When it's penetrated, when it's taken through with the Avodah from Mesiras Nefesh, which is higher than reason and rationale. And now the Rebbe is going to explain how this explanation with the Shabbos and the Chesom and the Hanhogenisis, Tivis, the way it's in Avodas Hashem and the way it's in the Spheres, is related to the general idea of the 3 items that Tamar asks from Yehuda. The above mentioned explanation, Sizayin Ches, in the inyan von Choisem and Tabas, in the idea of the seal and the ring, Ados is the chibur von Nes, that this is the connection of Nes, Yisoid, Zod, the Spheres Yisoid, und Tava Malchus, is verbunden mit dem Primis dikem Tam. This is associated with the inner reason. Vavos Tomer hat gebeten die 3 Sachen, why Tomer requested these 3 things of Chesomcha, Upsilcha Matecha. Steht in Svorim, It's brought down in the Svarim as Tomar is the beginning for Malchus. Tomar is the level of Malchus. The father gebet the drei Sachen, and that's why she requested the three items. Because because these items are connected the drei spheres. They are corresponding to the three spheres. Yisoid, that is Chesomcho, and Netzach is Psilacho, and Hoid Matecha. So Hoid, Netzach, and Yisoid. Yisoid is Chesomcho, Netzach, Psilacho, Hoid Matecha. With them, what she gewollt Oifton, and with that, she wanted to accomplish the chibur from the spheres, was hecher from Malchus, the connection of those spheres that are higher than Malchus with spheres Malchus, with spheres Malchus. Moshe Chassidus, Binyan Malchus, wanted to build Malchus by getting from Yisoid, Netzach, and Hoid, which are higher than Malchus. And their far is durch the Maise Yehuda v'Tomer, and therefore through the story of Yehuda v'Tomer, Geboren Peretz. Peretz was born. Was von ihm is der Abstab von Malchus Beis David. From him comes the lineage. We come from the king of David. Comes from Peretz. Eventually, that's Boheli the Yishai, and Yishai gave birth to David. Malchus Beis David. Is Mashiach until Mashiach. Das heißt, this means that the Inyan from Binyan HaMalchus was Vetzayin B'Shleimus Elosi Lovi. That means that this idea that Malchus will be fully built completely in the future to come, but Tzacham gave him from Yehuda v'Tomer that started with Yehuda and Tomer. Yeshloimar with Erechevsher, you can say possibly, Ados is Oich der Tam Pnimi. This is the inner reason. Was Rashi touched, that Rashi translates as Chesomcha meant a tabaz, that Chesomcha means a ring, mit a choisem that has a seal. But in the Inyan, the tabas is because the idea of a seal, the ring is wie gesagt der chibur from Yisoid and Malchus that connects Yisoid and Malchus nature and above nature, and the weekdays and Shabbos. That's the connection of Yisoid and Malchus. So it turns out that the inyan for choisem the tabas, that this idea of a seal and a ring is behesem zum closing and teichen from the Maise Yehuda v'Tomer, that is fits the general idea of the story of Yehuda and Tomer. That Binyan HaMalchus, that's building Malchus, Hamshochas B'chinas HaChoisem, to bring down the level of Choisem Yisoid in their B'chinas from Tabas Malchus to bring it into Malchus. That is what a ring is. The ring is the Malchus, and to bring down the Tabas in the Malchus. Yud, like them Kemerech Masber Zayin. This can also explain. Those of us Rabbi Chaim Wolosow, our master, the teachers, the Wolosow, they say of Chesomcha, on the Chesomcha as Kitcha B'Tabahas, that he betrothed to his kedushin with that ring, with Geben Tomer sein Chesem Tabahas. That while by giving Tomer his ring, Hot Yehuda Zimekadish, he betrothed her. And from them stammt euch der meaning, and that is also from there comes the tradition as mekadosh medatabas, that people, when you betroth a woman, the kedushin is done with a ring. But see, we should understand. This needs to be understood. What is the shayches between kedushin and tabas? What's the connection between betrothal and the ring? Because the fact is the meaning of chitzter to mekadosh medatabas. That's why tradition is also now to use a tabas. Unoich from them was the Torah is Maram is also the fact that the Torah hints the inyan for Mekadosh with tabas, that to be Mekadosh a ring, Davke by the Kedushin from Yehuda v'Tomer, specifically by the Kedushin of Yehuda v'Tomer. Is verstandig as is do a teuchendike Sheiches zwischen sie. So it's understood there's a connection between them, between the tabas and the marriage. Is the beer in them. There is Yaduas, there Giluv and Koicha in Sovdo in Welt. It's known that the revelation of the power of the infinite in this world, Dricht Zechois in the Minyan from the Suyin, it expresses itself in the aspect of marriage. Was is Abinyan Adi Ad, which is an internal edifice, Ein Sof to no end. This haste, which means as Nesuyin is Bedugmas the Chibur for Bechinas Chosem. Marriage is similar to this connection from the level of Chosem, which is Neis, miracle to Bas Teva. The Gilui from Koyach Ein Sofi Vel Gufa, to reveal the power of the infinite in the world itself. Bald, as the Emeser Ushleim is the Binyan Hamalchus, the true and wholesome building of Malchus, which is the Chibur from Ein Sof Bet Olam, to connect the infinite with the world. Neis Teva, miracle in nature. You saw it Zoh Malchus was Vet Zayin Lo Osilovi. There's going to be in the future. Hat sich angegeben from Kedusha Yehuda V'Tomer. That started with the Kedusha of Yehuda V'Tomer. That was the pre-connection of the Binyan Hamalchus, as mentioned earlier, Canal, the far ver dafke by ze nirmas der inyan from Kader Zayin mit Hatabas. That's why by them is specifically hinted this idea from a ring, which in the ring you get the level and the chosem in the ring, which is the level of the binyan hamalchus, which is the level of neis in Teva Yisod and Malchus. This is Mesichas Shabbos Parshas Vayeishev, Tavshin Lamed Gimel and Tavshin Tezvav.